should really check in on those themes and make sure they fade out right next time. I was just so excited to have the need for theme songs that I got a little carried away with myself. So thanks for listening to this episode, and thanks for listening to all the other episodes. I didn't expect much from this project, and it's doing a lot better. So thanks, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and assume this isn't the only podcast you listen to, so I'm not going to bring up iTunes reviews and visiting the webpage and stuff. If you're interested, all that jazz is in the show notes. So last time we were here, I told you some stories about Zen that were supposed to illustrate what Zen does, which is, to put it in a nutshell, to try to mitigate or undo some of the effects of having a language in your head. How thought and reality are not the same thing, even though a lot of times that's exactly what they seem like. Zen attempts to separate thoughts and language. It's there to allow us to see thoughts for what they are, words in our head, not the real world, which, as we brought up before, tends to happen. But what if things were the opposite? What if the mind were a dark and empty place, and the path to enlightenment was in gaining the ability to use a language to fill the mind with sounds and symbols so that order can be brought to the inner and outer worlds? That's how it was for Helen Keller. My friend told me the story about the first time Helen Keller really understood the concept of letters and words. She had a teacher who had been trying to show her the alphabet by tracing the shape of the letters on the back of her hand and spelling out words. It would work like the teacher would give Helen an apple and then trace the letters to spell the word apple in the back of her hand. It wasn't really working that well. I don't know too much about it, but it sounds like a difficult concept to grasp, so no wonder it wasn't going well. But one day her teacher put Helen's hand under a stream of water and spelled the word water on the back of her hand. Helen Keller later described that moment by saying, "Water, that word startled my soul and awoke it, full of the spirit of the morning. Until that day, my mind had been like a darkened chamber, waiting for words to enter and light the lamp, which is thought. I learned a great many words that day." When I heard the story, I was reminded of the Zen nun, Chiyono, who had a similar experience, but the opposite problem. She had too many words in her head, and she was having difficulty making them go away. She was studying Zen under a buko of Enganku, and in spite of the fact that she was intelligent and a good student and practiced often, she was having problems getting the hang of her meditations. But one day she did get it. It was actually a night. It was a clear moonlit night, and she was carrying a bucket filled with water, and the bucket was of dubious quality. The bottom was made of bamboo, and it had been falling apart for a while. It didn't have much left in it. She was looking at the moon's reflection in the water, and the bottom fell out of the bucket. The moon vanished, and the water spilled onto the ground, getting her feet wet. Probably got her feet wet. I wasn't there, but I'm just assuming that would be something that would happen. When she saw that, the moon disappear, and the water disappear, and the bottom of the bucket disappear, she had a moment much like Helen Keller did when her teacher spelled water on her hand while holding her hand underwater. But in reverse, when the water spilled out of the bucket, it took Chiyono's words with it. In commemoration of this victory over her mind, she wrote a poem. In this way and that, I tried to save the old pail, since the bamboo strip was weakening and about to break, until at last the bottom fell out. No more water in the pail. No more moon in the water. It's neat to me that Helen Keller gained a language and Chiyono saw through one. Both had a similar, profound shift in perspective and consciousness. Both experienced what would be called a moment of enlightenment, again, for totally opposite reasons. Maybe enlightenment is just being aware of negative space. I don't know. And I don't know what these two stories tell us about inner speech and our thought processes, but I thought it was pretty neat. And maybe it'll be neat to you. That's all for Zen for now. The next long episode is going to be about what the Western world has to say about the inner dialogue. It's kind of dry so far.